Hello and welcome to episode 4 of this Let's Play series. In the last episode, we started on Fulgora and we instantly went to Vulcanus and we built a big quality factory that's going to make lots of really useful quality things. In my mind, Vulcanus is the kind of the main engine room for this quality approach. Fulgora is good, the scrap is useful, but we are fundamentally limited by the sizes of the island, so we can't do all of the things we necessarily want to do on Fulgora. Whereas Vulcanus, we have a much freer hand. We've got a lot more space to work with. So, although we need to do quality on Fulgora in order to get the quality things that we want, like EM plants, recyclers, quality modules, etc., Vulcanus is really the place where all of the main stuff is happening, and that's the factory that we started out with in the last episode. After we did that factory and got it going, we came to Gleba and we built this little thing, little in quotation marks, and we kind of got it going, just a very small part of it. We just got the bioflux going purely so that we're processing fruits, so that we're generating seeds, so that we can make the special soil that I need in order to make more fruits. So, in between the end of the last episode and the start of this one, this has just kind of been running in the background. I've been doing some bits and pieces. I've been to Fulgora and did a thing. I went to Vulcanus and I did another thing. And then, we're building up. We've got a nice stash of the soil now. So I feel like it's time to get going on this big upgrade. And then we can turn on the rest of the factory, which would be really freaking nice. So let's get going. Now, ordinarily, the music would be kicking in right now, and we'd be enjoying some nice montage. But a cock-up has been made, and so I'm here. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just pause this. A cock-up has been made. There is a menu screen. There's an option in the menu screen to turn off clouds. And you probably can see where this is going. This option, I have it turned off permanently because it ruins the time lapse, and for some reasons, it just turns itself back on again. I used to think it was caused by an update to the game, but I'm now coming to the conclusion, I'm pretty sure now, that it's as a result of joining a multiplayer server. It kind of copies the general settings from the multiplayer server into your game, and then when I go back to a single player mode, it copies those settings and they follow with me. So in a moment, once we get the video going again, we're going to be introduced to some clouds which are going to ruin everything. So I'm going to try and talk our way through it and give you an explanation of what's going on, because it is rubbish. I'm going to put a timestamp in the bottom, so if you want to skip the clouds entirely, go to this time, skip it all. Happy days. Okay, let's get the video going again. Alright, so as I said in the intro, what we're basically doing here is upgrading the farms with all this lovely new soil. I'm only really showing you one of those farms, but you got to imagine that in your mind this is happening across all of the farms that I currently have. The production that we are producing prior to this upgrade, it's producing just bioflux really, and we're adding a whole load of new processes which need their own dedicated supplies of fruits at the same time. So although we're probably not adding new farms, but by adding new production, hopefully we'll be able to satisfy those demands. Here are the clouds. All right, so this is the first process we're going to turn on in this kind of little montage. It's the iron and the copper. As with all of these processes, they're kind of fed by this nutrient. So we have to feed in the nutrients and the bioflux to feed the biochambers first. And then once we've got a steady supply of those, then we can turn on the actual process. Wow, this is going fast. Right, okay. So this next block is for sulfur, lube, rocket fuel, and plastics, including quality plastics. We're not doing the other quality bits on the other things. They're not really needed. We're feeding in the nutrients just as we were before, and the bioflux, and then we're bringing in the fruits, processing them. This is carbon. We're skipping over that because we need the science to unlock it. And we're going to crack on with using some of the materials. Oh no, hang about. No, okay. Oh, man, this is nuts. I haven't done this before. Right, so this is a little block that's going to process spoilage. We're just going to feed it in. If it overflows, then we scrap it in some recyclers, and now we can kind of get cracking with using some of the actual resources that we're making. We've got a whole load of iron ore and copper ore. We need some foundries and potentially, if we're doing quality properly, we need ways and means to deal with the overflow of those things. So I'm trying to build blocks that incorporate all of those things within the same footprint. And I don't want to take some of these processes elsewhere and sort them or scrap them in other places. The best design really is to kind of hold them all in this one block. So all of the processes associated with iron ore we have here. And then we're going to slowly move over to copper ore, which is doing more or less the exact same thing. You know, we're trying to keep it all within the same footprint, sort it all and scrap it all. We obviously have issues with regards to copper plates, my perennial nemesis in this regard. For this, I'm just scrapping the copper plate on site within the block. You know, we are going to be making copper cables, and they are going to have their own scrapping mechanisms, but and hopefully in an ideal world, those would be the only scrapping mechanisms, and we wouldn't have to rely on the copper scrapping. But you just never know. And this is Gleba. You know, who knows what's going to happen and what's going to come in with regards to Gleba. It's just such a frustrating planet. Anyway, let's carry on. Right, circuit boards. Now, this is what I'm trying to do is build an all-in-one block that deals with all of the circuit boards in one place, merely so that I can control all of these copper cables. It's merely so I can control the copper cables. I mean, let's be clear on this. If it wasn't for the copper cable issue, I would probably be designing this in a completely different way. But because I'm constantly trying to develop new ideas for how to deal with the copper cables, every time I build the block, I feel like I have to develop it one stage further. And, you know, just because we're on Gleba doesn't mean that process doesn't, you know, that doesn't mean that process stops. In my mind, I'm still thinking about upgrades to novice. Like, I need some serious upgrades to novice at this moment in time, and the more development to the idea that I can put in at this moment in time, the better that solution is going to be. And so, although this is Gleba and it's a complete nightmare, and that what I really want to do is just something really, really simple that churns out the things that I need, we're doing a full quality run. And I'm using that as an opportunity to experiment with different ways of laying this factory down. Anyway, we've skipped past the point where we are in the video. Right, so we're now dealing with a mall. This is a full quality mall, so we've got all of the different sections here. 1 dot on the right, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot, and 5 dot. Then we've got a whole lot of scrapping of stuff, which is the stuff that I'm building now. So if we happen to produce too many of these things, to stuff that we don't need, then we upcycle it, recycle it, and, you know, re-input the things back into the factory. You know, there's not really a whole lot of things here in the mall. It's not really a very serious mall. It doesn't become very serious. It's because, you know, I've got all of the serious things already being built on Fulgora and Vulcanus. So how many things do I really need here? Not, you know. Anyway, I'm kind of crossing topics I'm going to cover later on in the ad hoc microphone sections. All right, so we've got a section here at the bottom. That's to produce the jelly for the stack inserters. And now we're kind of getting into some kind of a mall. I always want conveyor belts. I always want, you know, assembly machines and chemical plants and pipes, and, you know, in this and particularly the ingredients that I need for rocket silos. So electric engines, blue circuit boards. I suppose we're already doing those. Concrete. All of those things are important. Rocket silos are always a pain, particularly because we can't transport them through space. All right, now we're dealing with kind of ammunition stuff. You know, at some point, these pentapods are going to start attacking, and I need to deal with them. So we need ammunition for some gun turrets, and we need some rockets for the rocket turrets. And we also need power. A lot of power, potentially. You know, if I start covering some of my farms in these fancy Tesla turrets that I'm making on Fulgora, then that is potentially a lot of power. And you know, and this is all self-sufficient. You know, we're using the rocket fuel that we're making in the base. So now I can stop using uranium fuel. I've got a little nuclear reactor self to the side, so I can go and turn that off. And yeah, we're just filling in the materials to the rest of them all, and setting up the camera for the next part, which will be the building of the bus for the quality mall. All right then, we built a big old base here. Now I've got my excuses lined up. Firstly, yeah, the quality in this full Monty fashion, which is what you can see in front of you. You know, there's a fair amount of belt work and systems that need to happen, and frankly, there's no point doing it unless you're going to do it in some kind of serious manner. That's my first excuse. But the main, I suppose, the main excuse, the main excuse is that I got a comment on one of the first episodes in this series, almost challenging me, you know, daring me to do some kind of full Monty, full quality thing on Gleba, and I just put my head down and I did it. I just did it. Yeah. Now I've been furiously trying to finish because the bases on Fulgora and Vulcanus are now fully broken. Not just a little bit broken, but now fully 100%. Nothing new is happening. No new things are being created. Everything is jammed. This is Fulgora. This is Vulcanus. It is much the same story. This is so bad that I can't now launch anything from rockets because all of the rockets are... What the hell is going on here? We've got this thing. These are modules. How is stuff still flowing around here? You come around here. You come around here. Is it just on an infinite loop? Is that what I've done? I think I may have cocked up here. Anyway, it's all jammed up. Nothing's moving, nothing's being created. I've got a few rockets, or I did. I got a few rockets, you know, emergency supplies. So I've been furious trying to finish here on Gleba because I cannot stand it to have these two factories just absolutely stood still, not going anywhere. And there's no point me doing anything until I got stack inserters. But the problem is I've gone so big that it's taken me so damn long to damn finish. You know, if I'd built something a lot smaller, a lot more humble maybe, then I'd have got stack inserters by now. I'd have fixed these problems and... I make a rod for my own back so many times. All right, let's run back. Let's just start right at the beginning, because so much has been built since I last talked on the mic that, you know, we've got to run through it quickly just so we know where we stand. We left it off last time with Bioflux. This was on and running, and I was trying to generate seeds. We now have seeds. We now have too many seeds. In fact, the whole factory broke and stopped working because the seeds jammed up. And I actually had to use my starter factory, this starter thing, to get it going again. So it's been used twice now. But that's probably it, hopefully. So Bioflux still going. We'll come back to this in a moment. We'll come back to that. Iron and copper. Yeah, working. I've had to fiddle around with it a little bit, but you know, these two belts are full, so I don't know. I don't feel like that's the end goal here. Until a problem occurs, I can only assume it's doing its job. We've got sulfur and rocket fuel and plastic and lube. You know, the factory is now, the power is running off of this rocket fuel, so it's doing its job. Still spitting out, or it should be. Why are you not spitting out? You're being held up by you. Oh, okay, it's being held up by the circuit signal, which says we've got enough in the system already. I'm kind of investigating. Okay, so it's counting all of this and saying that's plenty. Fine, we're backed up to here anyway. Okay, then we have carbon fiber. I obviously need to research the stuff to turn this on, so this is, you know, some point in the future. We've got a little block to deal with the sorting and scrapping of any spoilage. plenty of space if I need to expand. It is what it is. Then we got iron, the big suite of things. So we're smelting the iron. We've got a bunch of furnaces for dealing with the quality iron that the bacteria happens to throw at us. And we've got steel, and then steel boxes into recyclers to upcycle it. Iron plate, and then iron plate into boxes to upcycle it. Copper, same deal. So copper smelting, furnaces for the quality, copper plates, a whole bunch of recyclers. This is very recycler heavy, so yeah, to recycle the copper plate. And then low density structure. I'm not doing anything fancy with low density structure here. You know, we're not making quality low density structure, and I'm not recycling it for quality copper or steel. I did ponder it. I did think about it. The conclusion that I came to was that I'm not using quality low density structure anywhere. You know, I don't have any. The only thing that I can possibly use quality low density structure for would be quality rocket parts, you know, asteroid collectors, crushers, and rocket engines and whatnot. And I'm not doing that here. I've already got that set up on Vulcanus and Fulgora, and those are probably going to give me plenty. So if I'm not using the quality low density structure, I didn't really feel like making it just for the purposes of copper and steel. I mean, I feel like this is gonna be producing a fair amount of that stuff anyway. Anyway, by the by, I'm not doing it. I considered it and I didn't do it. And then circuit boards, and this is kind of where things got a little bit away from me. Now the thing is, with this smelting of the copper and the iron, we can put some really juicy, top tier quality productivity modules in here and potentially get some truly ridiculous numbers in terms of molten iron and copper and what have you. Just ridiculous numbers. So, you know, in your mind, you think, oh, at some point in the future, maybe I'll have those things. And if I did get those things, wouldn't it be nice if I had the factory to be able to deal with the sort of throughput that I can anticipate? And then, you know, you build the factory that you think you might be able to anticipate, and it turns into just a ginormous monster. It's stuck out like a sore thumb, number one, which always displeases me. You know, I would much rather this was like maybe 2/3 the size but was wider. It's kind of a consequence of the way that it's constructed. It's also a complete nightmare to film. I hate doing those super zoomed, and it's in portrait, super portrait. It's like the opposite, or it's the opposite kind of a factory I want to be. But the thing is, I think it's going to be excellent. The idea is that this kind of deals with everything to do with circuit boards in one block. So hopefully nothing really leaves. I mean, there are a few things that leave. Like I've got the iron plate and the copper plate needs to come out. You know, if we recycle a copper cable and we get a copper plate out and we don't need it, then it... Well, no, not if we don't need it. If we recycle a copper cable and we get a copper plate out, then it needs to come out of here, find its way into the bus, and then through here into this sorting widget so it feeds into the rest of the system. And then if that overflows, then it gets recycled here. But hopefully it will find its way in and make more copper cable. You know, it's not... The idea was to keep it self-contained, but there is a limitation on how self-contained it can be. All the copper cables just remain within this one block. You know, yeah. I mean, and this is full Monty as well. Like, like we've got what six ingredients, I think, 6 things that we're trying to put through this bus, but we got 5 different qualities, so. You know, the things multiply. But anyway, the idea is we start at the top. This is going to sort everything. 5 sorting widgets to deal with plastic, green, red, blue, and then the copper cables. And then we've got 5 batches of recyclers, 1 to deal with each of those things, just in case those things happen to overflow. They're obviously not turned on yet because we will need to fill this with quality. There's no point upcycling any of this yet. And then we kind of get to the quality. So we got 1 dot copper cables, green circuit boards, and red circuit boards. And then we got 2 dot copper cable, green and red. and then same again, 3 dots, and then 4 dot and 5 dot. I've kind of buried these two within the same block. And then the same again, but just with blue circuit boards. And you build all of that, and you add it all up, and you build the bus, and it becomes just freaking monstrous. And the thing is, this is designed to deal with the theoretical output of the top half of the factory. I've got a bottom half. So theoretically, I can copy and do a second one of these, and I've built the bus for it. These are all of the belts that I would need, and they would feed into the system. All I would need to do is just copy it and flip it and blosh it down, and we've got more quality circuit board production. But why? But why? Like, I've had this comment and it's pushed me, and I've got my head down and I want to get it finished, and then I'm just like, all right, but now you're here, you've got all of this lovely juicy stuff, you've justified it in your head, all right, but why? Like, what are we doing on Gleba that's going to use all of these things? What justification have you got? So we find our way to the main, the point of the exit point, the final point of all of this stuff, which is the full Monty Mall. And the reality of the situation is that we're using all of this to mainly make inserters. If we're talking planet specific things that we need to make specifically on this planet, then stack inserters. And stack inserters, we need the green ones to make the white ones, and then you need the blues ones to make the green ones, you need the yellow ones to make the blue ones. So we need to make all of them, basically. Red ones are super duper important. They're going to be super useful. So now, this is now inserter heaven. If I need a batch of inserters, this is now where I'm coming in the future for quality insert. It's just what I've got to put all of this somewhere. So why not? Okay, and then we got to deal with the other planet specific things. So rocket turrets. That's where this is going. It's I just need to unlock it. I haven't unlocked it yet. It will be unlocked. This is where it's going. And then we've got efficiency modules. But I've got no real intention of using efficiency modules. They might occasionally come in useful, for rocket ships. But in my mind, if I'm just trying to save power on a rocket ship, the tier 2 ones will probably just be fine. There's only a few bits of power. But the thing is, these are the easiest modules. Like on every other planet, all of these tier 3 modules need a specific special ingredient to make. And on all of the planets, apart from Gleba, they're horrible ingredients to make. But here on Gleba, it's just spoilage. And, I'd imagine that once we get this thing going, we're going to be kicking out a lot of quality spoilage. Don't tend to think that's going to be it's going to be a problem. We may as well make them, whether or not I use them or not. So efficiency modules, which I'm not really going to use, rocket turrets, which I haven't researched yet, and inserters, which are inserters. There's no shame in inserters, but really, we've built this whole Gleba factory to make inserters. So I suppose we do need to mention biochambers. That is something else that I need to make somewhere along the ways. But they need the eggs, and we need the eggs for the science. So I need to, whatever system I make for biochambers needs to be close to eggs and science. That's not what this is. I don't really want to start moving eggs all over the base. So this is now what we're spending our stuff on. And we got a normal kind of 1 dot factory here. I'm never really totally comfortable until I've got conveyor belts down. So we've got conveyor belts in here, engines, concretes, railways, elevated rails, signals and stations, and just the basic amount of things. And then power. Plenty of power. Hopefully enough power. I've built a little thing up here for gears. This is kind of... I need to get this. I need to get this whole thing going. I've built this to kind of recycle all of the gears. So we make the gears. The 1.1s exit and go to the rest of the factory. And then if we get overflow, we recycle them. But that makes iron plate. So that iron plate needs to be fed to make more quality iron gears, which feed the way through and potentially over. You know, it's kind of a big circle, but it's stuck on freaking quality. I need to get this quality going. My boxes of conveyor belts won't fill at this rate. I need to get those boxes filled. This whole base, you know, there's a lot of stuff here, and I want you to imagine that all of this stuff has been imported from the bases I've just shown you on Vulcanus and Fulgora, which are broken. I can't get any more. Well, I've got those few more rockets. The only reason I've got those rockets is because I took some blue circuit boards off Novice and dumped them on Vulcanus. It's not making blue circuit boards anymore. So I can't get green conveyor belts. I might be able to get a few bits and pieces off of Fulgora, but probably not for much longer. Most of it, a lot of it's come from Novice, to be honest. All in all, which is probably not the best way to be playing this game, particularly considering that all of the place that I'm using as normal assembly machines to make conveyor belts on Novice. I'm not using the fancy foundries because it was the base on Novice is the one that I made hours ago, literal many hours ago. So I want to get these gears. All right. So what we need to do, because I need to get these gears going, and I need conveyor belts, and I need to get some stack inserters so I can leave this planet, even just temporarily, to fix Fulgora and Vulcanus. This is where the camera is now. I need to start routing this stuff in, and there really is no point filming the routing all this stuff in unless there is stuff to route in. So I'm gonna start filling this base with quality, and commence the big experiment. Because this is all. I don't know what's going to happen. This could all go very, very pear-shaped. You know, let's consider that we've got 3 quality bases now. 2 of them are turned on but not moving, and then this one which isn't turned on and is currently moving. I suppose we're not making conveyor belts. We got no gears, so it's not really moving that much. We're making some things. I suppose I can handcraft some bits and pieces. Anyway. Let's start filling with some quality modules. Let's see what happens. And then maybe I can start upgrading. So I just want to start upgrading. I need like 10,000. Give me 10,000 stack inserters and enough rockets to be able to launch those 10,000 stack inserters into space. And I've got like 10-20 hours of work, but glorious satisfaction work, you know. I need to get this base finished. I just need to get this damn base finished. Right, let's do it. So we be cooking on Vulcanus. We be seriously freaking cooking on Vulcanus. This is, I don't know how you feel about the level of amount of stuff that's on this belt, this kind of sushi belt, but this is a lot of stuff in stacked terms. This is, you know, when we were talking about these factories before, and we were talking about yield and the 3-dot things that I was getting from the factory, you know, and it was impressive, and I was impressed by it, and it felt good. But in the back of my mind, I was always like, you know, when we get to these higher quality things, it's just going to be a lot less impressive. You know, when it comes down to it, you know, these 3-dot things, we're going to get a lot of them, and then it's going to take it's going to take longer to get the 4-dot things, and it's going to take even longer to get all the legendary things at the end of that. I don't know whether I need to recalibrate that little bit. You know, I've been doing a few improvements. We're going to run around some improvements that I've been doing in this little factory in a bit, but in the time that I've been doing those improvements, we've built just so many things. I mean, the big mining drills are a problem because of tungsten, which is one of the improvements that I did, and we'll be talking about in a second. I mean, I haven't been here very long doing these improvements. Okay, robots maybe not so great. Definitely not so great. I suppose as we progress our way down the factory, we are finding our way to basically less and less important things. You know, all of the materials are finding their way to these processes, and then once these ones are filled, they'll get to these ones. So, you know, the ones at the top, they're still filling. You know, I mean, I didn't unlock Epic that long ago. This is just nuts to me. This might actually, you know, in my mind, you know, the big thing in my mind is legendary tier 3 quality modules. Is the factory that I've built on Fulgora going to be able to churn out enough legendary tier 3 quality modules for me to fill every factory that I build? You know, that sounds like a tall order. But if we can juice up the yield so that we can, if I can get Fulgora so it's performing to the same kind of state that this one is, I might be able to rely on that for those modules. I don't know. I mean, we are talking tens and tens of thousands of these modules. I've already, all those blue ones that we looked at before. I mean, do we want to look at Fulgora briefly? Well, I mean, it's just completely jammed shut. Nothing's moving still. I suppose we looked at this before. Nothing has moved since then. You know, I've taken all of the modules that were in here. There's not many. Oh, is that where? Well, some material's still finding its way through. It's still squeaking its way into these machines. Anyway, so I'd really like to think that the improvement that I can see here on Vulcanus with the properly stacked ingredients on belts is going to make Fulgora better. I mean, we are still going to be talking about trains. The trains are going to be a problem. But, you know, I just want to get it moving. You know, if we can get it moving so that it's doing something, so something is generating, then that's better than it is at the moment. And then, you know, a kilo's not that far off. We're going to have foundations soon. I'm not going to need many of them. You know, a couple of thousand will probably do the job for me to be able to increase the size of the stations in the way that I need on Fulgora. That won't take very long. So if I can just get it to a point where it's turning over, so I can get to a kilo, get the foundation, and fix it properly, and then hopefully we can get full max output, non-throttled, just as lovely as this one is. Right. So improvement-wise, I've completely demolished the green, red, and blue circuit board portions of the factory, and to be honest, I've still got the copper cable portion, but it's turned off. This needs to be demolished as well. I've rebuilt that entirely over here. Now, this is a complicated block. So, I mean, the idea of this is that I want to lose all of my copper plate. You know, every copper plate that enters, I want to turn into a copper cable, and I'm still trying to realize this dream. And so this is the end point now. You know, before, well, actually what happened was I got this factory going again, and then we were making so many 4-dot epic ingredients that the 2 little units down here that I've got built specifically for, it's just not enough. So I'll go, all right, so if I'm rebuilding and I'm taking this now outside of the footprint of the block, then I'm going to build something that's well over the top, that will never ever fill up, that will never ever jam up with copper plate, ever. You know, it can jam up with the other things. I mean, it won't jam. Well, it can't jam up with any of the other things. This is not an endpoint for any of the other things. You know, if the copper cables jam up, then they get recycled at the start of the factory. If the anything else, the plastic or the greens and the reds jam up, then they get scrapped at the bottom of the factory. They all get routed through. It's only really the end point for the copper plate. But in dealing with this copper plate issue, I want to try and do something else, which is to try and remove copper cables from the system. You know, with this system that we've got here, all of the copper cables are being sent into the sushi system. That gets sent to the widget and gets sorted through that thing, finds its way through, and then mostly finds its way back into green circuit boards, and then a little bit into red. So what I'm trying to do here is send all of the copper cables directly into the green and the red circuit boards, and then if it overflows, because you know we might get a backlog of copper plate, and then that, you know, this is the output that we need to exit, then it will exit, and then once we've used all of that, then we can bring in the new copper plate and introduce that to the system with a priority on the copper cables coming from the copper plate, because obviously the copper plate is the thing that we need to lose. So this is the important copper cables that we need to use. If this is not enough here, then we use the stuff that's the rest of the factory has sent us. So, yeah. And this is working beautifully. Just absolutely beautifully. Fixed all of my problems. No more copper plate backing up. That was the only thing, when I switched all this thing back on with the stacked inserters, that was the only thing that was broken, was the copper plate. It just wouldn't go through copper cables. And I've overdone it. But I'm actually, look how many of these, all of these are being used. Like, all of these are full of material. All of these are the 3.EM plants, the best versions that I have. Like, I can't expect better than this, really. You know, this is max production. This is fully justified. It's just ridiculous how much of this stuff we're using. It's so good. Anyway, so this was the first kind of big improvement that I wanted to make. I wanted this kind of copper cable system. Still trying to kind of finesse the way that I'm dealing with these copper plates and copper cables, trying to find a really nice happy place with it. This is a nice happy place. The second thing was the tungsten triangles. We weren't producing enough to make the mining drills. So, I mean, the problem was that I had a setup which just used 1 tungsten ore. I didn't have any modules in the mining drills, and I didn't really have any systems to be able to deal with quality ore. So I've introduced that to the factory now. This whole factory was here. I've had to move that bit of the factory over here and put this thing in here instead. So now we're doing full quality carbon. You know, I'm using my epic chemical plants already, and full quality tungsten triangles too. So this is kicking out a fair bit more than it was before, which is, you know, good. And that's where most of those mining drills have come since I built this block. You know, before I built the block, there were maybe 3 or 4 epic big mining drills in here. Now there's 80 odd. So I'm happy with Vulcanus now. I feel like this is in a good place. I don't need to worry about this. I mean, I feel like there's excess capacity in here that I can make use of. Everything now is, you know, all of those 3 quality modules that I picked up from Fulgora, they're all in here. Everything is qualitied. I'm not having to moderate anything. I'm getting the absolute maximum possible from every situation in this factory. The moment I get better modules, I'll get more things. It's so good. It's so good. Right. So, quick. This was meant to be just a quick chat on the mic, because what I want to do now is I want to go to Fulgora and I want to fix that. But before I do that, I want to fix up my spaceship. You know, with the Gleba science, we now have access to better rocket ship tech and whatnot. I've got a whole load of really nice 4 things in here. You know, I'm pretty sure I've got all of the 4 rocket parts that I would need to upgrade that ship to a really good level. So, I mean, yeah, asteroid collectors, silos, crushers, rocket engines, we're all good. So I can do, we need a good rocket ship to get around. The old recipes are just rubbish. So, upgrade rocket ship, fix up Fulgora. That's what we're doing. So, we've kind of come full circle here. You know, we started out on Gleba, went to Vulcanus, fixed up Vulcanus. Last time I checked, Vulcanus was doing very well. I hesitate because so frequently on this run, this has not been the case. I've checked on the base once, 10 minutes later, checked on it again, different result, but no, it's all good. Yes. Let's have a look. Big mining drills. Yepity. We're absolutely full, actually. It stopped making them because that's the limit on the inserter. Crazy. Fulgora, a whole lot less impressive, or at least it was. This is the one dot island. This is just one dot stuff whizzing around. This is probably not the. This is not really what I care about. This is really what we care about. Yeah, I mean, we're back to real freaking crumbs here, aren't we? What has happened here? Refined concrete goes in. Oh, this has been a persistent problem for me. I think I had I had a blueprint where this conveyor belt for 4 dot was pointing in the wrong direction, and I have copied it everywhere, and I thought I'd got it everywhere, but I hadn't. Okay. So we need to come. This is only. This is not impressive because it's all jammed up. I mean, it's probably still not going to be all that impressive. The last time I checked this when it was working, the stuff was really only dribbling through. I think we're kind of at that point where I need the second island to really juice this up. The trains, by the way, I think the trains are fixed. I think they're fixed. I mean, we need to fix all of this. How do I? Okay, let's just clear this up for a moment. Let's let it recover because that's a mess up with the refined concrete. That's cocked up everything. This was working fine. All I've done is set up a selector combinator on the main inserter to pick out the most abundant thing from the box to put it on the train. That's all I've done for all of the inserters. No fancy calculations, no nothing more complicated, and it works really well. And I tend to think the reason why is because the inserters aren't picking up like one or two things. You know, if it happens to pick up, say, a rare iron rod, for example, and there's only one of them, it will put it on the train, and that occupies a whole stack. And we have completely eradicated that from the system. We are now loading only like multiples of full hands, which are 12s, because all of the most abundant thing in the box is generally more than 12. So, although looking at it, we've got 9. At some point, no, I suppose, I don't know. I don't know how it works. The fundamentally, all it's got to do is move the material. It seemed to be doing that. We'll have to come back and have a look at this later. Reconnect these belts. It was working so well. As I said, I opened my mouth too soon. Anyway, we're back on Gleba, and I've obviously had to reinforce my farms. We had a slight incursion up here, and then we had a second slight incursion down here, which I didn't capture, but I've also reinforced down here as well. Now, I feel like a lot of my approach with regards to the pentapods on Gleba has been informed by my experiences in the beta, which were like 18 months ago. You know, when they gave us a select, rare few streamers and whatnot. I mean, it probably wasn't all that few, but I was one of the rare ones to be able to get the access to Space Age early. And in that beta, the pentas were brutal, absolutely brutal. I don't think I was ever able to get a respite from them. Like, from the moment that I got something serious going on Gleba and they started attacking me, I don't think I was ever really able to properly leave. I subsequently went to a kilo afterwards, and that broke me and the rest of the Let's Play. But I think what did it was Gleba. But since that beta, the pentapods have got a whole lot more benign. I don't know. I think it's probably just there's less of them. So what I really want to do is encapsulate the whole base in a perimeter wall of stuff, but I don't think that's necessary. I'm trying to recalibrate. Also, what's on my mind is I'm still, I made back in a day the perfect perimeter wall geometry video, And I still haven't done an update for it for Space Age. And the fundamental reason is because of Gleba. It's because I haven't found this happy place with it yet. We've got access to all of this new weaponry that we didn't have in old Factorio. We've got a new enemy. What is the best distribution of things in a perimeter wall? And where does that perimeter wall need to go? Do we just need to protect the fruits? I mean, that's where most of this kind of, whatever it's called, spores, that's where most of these spores seem to be giving out. But we are giving them out in the main base where we're cracking open the fruits. So there is the potential for them to come after my base. You know, if say something down here, maybe they'd probably, you know, I just feel, I don't know, I feel like every time I've built a perimeter wall around a base on Gleba, I felt like it's been completely over the top and unnecessary. And then when the pentapods have decided to attack, they've been able to overcome it quite easily. I think because, you know, if you build a big wall like that, it's all about the distribution of those toys. Like, what is the distribution of weaponry we need in the perimeter wall in order to defeat these things? And I think the conclusion that I've come to is that it's all about the rocket turrets. I mean, at the end of the day, you just can't beat a highly condensed, pre-packaged, on a belt, right in front of the turret, rocket. Like, the amount of power, the explosive power in that is so condensed, and you can fire them off as quickly as you can deliver them. You know, the Tesla turrets, they kind of go zzz, and then they have to wait a while, and then they go zzz again, and they're just not, even with the better quality ones, I feel like I would need to wrap them all. I need a continuous wall of them to make them worthwhile. It just feels like rocket turrets is the only real thing that's going to do it. So, I mean, that's kind of the conclusion that I've come to. We've got basically this front wall is to basically deal with all of the little critters. You know, they don't need rockets. The only thing that I'm really concerned about are the big pentapods. The little things are annoying, and we have to deal with them, and we can deal with them with just normal ammunition. They're not anything too dangerous. But the moment a big pentapod comes along, I just want to launch rockets at it. So we've got a real regular distribution of rocket turrets. And if I need to use some of my quality ones, I've used a couple of them already. But if I need to add more, then I will add more to reinforce. I'm still trying to find my happy place. Don't know. Other than that, you know, all things considered, things are now kind of going quite well. You know, Vulcanus is fixed. Fulgora is fixed. Gleba is doing the job. I've turned off the science for the moment, although I am kind of inching my way towards turning it back on, mainly because I want to start researching explosive upgrades for these rockets, and that requires Gleba science. I suppose that leads on to another topic of conversation, which is space transport. You know, I've got my lovely new spaceship, and I quite like it. It's fast, it's good. Yeah. So I've now copied it three times, and these are going to deliver the science from each of the 3 planets that we have so far. I think that my current ship that I'm using for my personal transport, I think once I get to a kilo, I'll start using this one for transport, and then I'll make a new one with railguns for the next personal transport ship, because that kind of needs some upgrades from what I've got here. I'll rebuild a whole new one because those railguns they make quite a big difference. However, in terms of this episode, that is basically it. We kind of I really need to start working on some new ships. I need a calcite ship, a ship that runs around space and picks up calcite, delivers it to both Novice and Gleba. Don't really need it for Novice just yet, but we are going to need it quite soon. So a ship that runs around space, picks up calcite, that's going to be really important. I know we only need 2 of them, but it's an important resource. I also want a maul ship for a kilo. My last playthrough I did a maul ship, and I failed to do probably the most important things, which were rocket ship ingredients. Like, if we've got a ship in space, harvesting asteroids and delivering blue circuit boards, low density structure. Do we need to do rocket fuel? We can probably do rocket fuel from maybe we do rocket fuel from I don't know. Rocket fuel, open question. But if we can deliver those two things, the blue circuit boards and the low density structure, then we don't need to start transporting that stuff to and from. We can just sit this mall above a kilo and deliver those two things. And once we've got those two things, we may as well make a whole load of other things as well, particularly with regards to a kilo, heat pipes. We're just going to need thousands of them. And we needed thousands of them in my last Let's Play. And in this Let's Play, we're doing quality. So we're going to need even more thousands of them. There's no way I'm delivering all of that through space. We can get it from space. We need, if all of that combined, we need a big mall ship that makes everything that I'm going to need on a kilo. Yeah, both of those are pretty large projects, and I probably can't start them in this episode without extending it a little bit. Although maybe I should edit the video and see where I am and see what happens, because maybe I can squeeze it in. All right, let's see what happens. So we've built just an absolute monster here. Sometimes genuinely you can get lost in the numbers with this stuff. Like, you can think to yourself, you know what? If this was max producing, then this could justify this. And if this was max producing, then this would justify this. And you kind of end up in a point where, yeah. From a purpose perspective, really, this from a long-term view, this is really only needs to produce blue circuit boards and low density structure for rockets on a kilo. And I'm pretty sure that at full chock, with enough asteroids, it should be able to do that. I mean, the enough asteroids is probably the crucial part. But in terms of design, in terms of factory design, this is probably, what we would expect. There's probably two aspects of the ship design that are unique to ship design. So let's go through those two unique aspects. The first one would be how we process the asteroids. Now, I've tried several different ways to route the asteroids through this particular system. At the end of the day, I want to use all three different processing types, of asteroid processing types. I don't want to have to rely on just one. And so I've been trying to develop a system of just raw belt logic. Can we route asteroids through this system with just a certain logic and priorities on the belts in a way that kind of deals with the potential excess, because all of these are throwing out excess products. Asteroids are potentially excess products on their own. It's how we process. Anyway, the point is, I've tried it. I couldn't get it to work, and I've come to the conclusion that the only way to do it is with circuit networks. With the old ways with just belt logic, it always seemed to be developed just an excess amount of stuff, just too much stuff, and that would block up the other thing that we need. Like, if we had, say, too much carbon and that jammed up the system, then we wouldn't be able to introduce any more sulfur to the system. And so I would have to kind of develop ways to throw this excess carbon off the side of the ship, which I never really liked. It's just messy. Okay. So the logic is as follows. We have this new asteroid processing that we've just got from Gleba Science, where we can process an asteroid and it gives us iron and copper ore. The logic that I've come to is that we only really want to run this process when we want the copper ore. It will give us iron ore along the way, but not enough iron ore. Iron on ships like this, particularly, rocket fuel takes iron ore. So when we're on deficit of copper ore, then we want to run this process. It will give us a little bit of iron ore, and we will use it, but it won't be enough. Once we have enough copper ore in the system, then we want to run it through this original process, which gives us iron ore, and it gives us a lot of iron ore. So this is the processing method we want to use when we want iron ore. And then if both of those are full of asteroids, then it sends it to the casino process, and we roll the dice on potentially getting a different kind of asteroid that isn't a metallic one. And it's the same basic logic with all of the others. So if we want calcite, then we run this process. If we want ice, then we run this process. If it overflows, goes into the casino. And same again with the carbon. And we're detecting capacities on these kind of main belts. So when when one of these is below a particular number, then it will enable these main inserters that feed these machines. That's the basic logic that I've come to using with regards to asteroid. And then I suppose if all of these fill up, such that we don't need any of them, then, or I suppose if we're bringing in too many metallic asteroids such that these are all at capacity and we're still bringing in more, then there is a overflow mechanism up here which will throw them off the edge, which, as I said, asteroids are potentially excess, so we have to throw them off the edge. If we don't control how we process them, then we potentially make all of their products excess, and we have to throw these off the edge somewhere else. That's the conclusion that I've come to. So if I can control so that these never fill up, then I can just rely on chucking them off the edge for the asteroids. Happy days. So that's kind of the first unique mechanism when it comes to space stations, spaceships. The second one is it comes about because we can't use chests, we can't use robots. Anytime we want to store something, it has to be routed to this main space platform hub. And so every process that we are storing, we basically have to control based on how much is being stored at any one moment in time. So we've got the main space hub connected to this red wire. We've got these two conveyor belts, and these are the inputs. So these are the belts bringing in the stuff from the mall so that we can store it. We're detecting the capacity of that belt too, and then at certain points, so for the rockets, because we've got so many, I just did it on the conveyor belt. If we've got less than 1,000 in that system, then it will enable this conveyor belt and enter them into the space hub. Same with with conveyor belts, I've done it on the inserter. So if it's less than 20,000, blah blah blah. So all of these inserters are hooked up to the same basic system, the same circuit network, and that will kind of turn them on and off as and when we need that particular thing. I mean, we can't have chests, so we can't store. Everything's got to be routed to this. I mean, I suppose this is just the system that I've come up to. We've got kind of a universal transport system that kind of funnels all of the things to the space platform hub. We pick up everything that we send there, and then we detect that capacity, and that determines whether we want to put more stuff in. So those are the two basic systems that we've got here, and then everything in the middle is just what we need. At the end of the day, this probably isn't that. This isn't a very big mall. This isn't very many things, but in order to make these things, I suppose we're kind of determined on those blue circuit boards that we need for rockets. These kind of, we don't really need, none of these processors in the mall need blue circuit boards. And I think this is why I missed them out in my last run. I was like, why do I need blue circuit boards in the mall? And then I got to a kilo and I was like, oh, I need them for rockets. Oh, what a bummer. So anyway, this ship has now been whizzing to and from a kilo, collecting many asteroids. It's basically full at the moment. Stuff is still kind of seeping in a little bit, but we are more or less full of all of the things. Mostly, it's working away. In terms of next steps, we are kind of not a million miles away from Fulgora, from a kilo now. There's probably only one thing that I need to work on, and that's a ship for calcites. But that isn't needed for a kilo. That's only really needed for Novice and Gleba. Although Gleba is now not working, nothing is happening because it's short on the calcite. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I have already started it. It's over here. It's in progress. We are going to do that in the next episode. However, before I leave, I just want to go through Fulgora because we've got it working now. More or less, every time I check, I have to caveat that with the last time I checked it was working. This is where I am, by the way, now, because I'm now trying to address these problems directly. This is now the current issue that I'm dealing with. What I'm trying to do now is just I've got a train. This middle storage cart is just for the quality scrap that we put out the ground, and I've now got a train that just deals with the 2-dot, because the 2-dot scrap just seems to overwhelm the system. So this train here just pulls the 2-dot, and then hopefully the other 3 trains this second train is doing 2-dot and 3-dot, and then these 2 trains are doing all of this stuff that finds its way through. It's fine tuning and finessing. We are right on the limit of what's capable here, and I just feel like if I can get this just right, just get everything just right, then we might be. I mean, to be honest, I feel like I've already arrived at that point, because it feels like we are at max capacity. We are kind of, we are now limited by these trains. Whatever scrap these trains bring in now is what we are processing. This is the dream. This was the dream at the beginning. I want these trains to be the limiting factor. Whatever these trains can give us, I want to be able to take it and process it. And I feel like we're there. I feel like we're there. Like this is now proper. This is now proper throughput. This is... You know, if I were to make another island, I'm still thinking about, can I make enough quality modules here? That's still what's on my mind. Would another island just be able to push us over the edge? I don't know. Anyway, we're going to call it a day there. And I will see you in the next one. Ta-ra. As always, a big thank you to all of my Patreons. Your support is much, much appreciated. Thank you, thank you. I'm going to try my best to do some more Patreon content. Although, you know, there is some sketchy stuff going on in the world right now as of 4th of April 2026. So who knows what's happening. For us, that's it. We'll leave it here. Thank you to the Patreons. And let's see if we can crack on with episode 5. Yeah, see you next time.